You know, I find kind of weird that so many like different YouTube videos, everything related to Pokemon, especially related to the word I'm referring to right now, is that there's so many videos like assuming people know what a Pokemon generation is, but I haven't seen a video about what a generation is. So I might as well take a very short detour out of your lives to explain what a Pokemon generation is. Because apparently, some people don't know what a generation is, or they mistake generation for something completely, well, not completely, but mostly unrelated. So, I might as well set the record straight on what a Pokemon generation is. Okay, so let's just go straight to the Bulbapedia page about generation really quick, and yeah, just give an explanation. Okay, so what we have here is the Bulbapedia page on generation. By the way, I don't know if you noticed this. Like, have you seen adless Bulbapedia lately? Yeah, I had to like inspect the page just to get rid of all the ads. So yeah, there are no ads in here. Anyway, back on topic. So Bulbapedia defines generation as a grouping of Pokemon games that separates them from based on the Pokemon they include. Okay, that's a good explanation and all. But we got some bit of problems with that particular sentence, and that being that, okay then, what do you call Legends Arceus then? Because it has some Pokemon that isn't in any other Generation 8 game, or people might mistake it for something else. So what I tend to see people mistake Generation for is, for depending on what region they're in. But I'll get to that in a half second. But like right now, I could probably like change the definition to that, like regardless of what like game comes out, this will hold true. And is that what if I define a generation as like a group of Pokemon games based on what is the most recent set of starter Pokemon? We are not going to that discussion right now. Are the most recent release. Because, like, yes, you could probably say, oh, it's a group of Pokemon games, depending on what Pokemon's in it. But we got a bunch of Pokemon games recently. I mean, it doesn't help that all of them revolve a certain most popular console of all time in recent memory, probably for years to come, that has a bunch of Pokemon completely removed from these games, even if any of the code evolving them is removed from the game. So technically, those don't necessarily apply. So I think, okay, what about this grouping of games based on the most recent starter Pokemon? Because name a Pokemon game. Let's go with Explore the Sky, for example. What's the most recent Pokemon? What's the recent starter Pokemon that were released there? Oh, it's it's like Turtwig, Chimchar, Piplup, right? The same with Diamond and Pearl. Generation 4. Or what are the most recent Pokemon thing about is, what about, I don't know, Journeys? Well, what is the most recent starter Pokemon that have been released during that time? Or heck, you could probably say, what are the most prominent starter Pokemon in Journeys? Oh, it's the ones in Galar, right? Generation 8. So, yeah, now let's take it back. Let's take it to a different step. Let's go back to Legends Arceus for a second. What are the most recent starter Pokemon released at the time of that game's release? Well, what about the Hisuian forms of the stars? No. When I say starter Pokemon, I mean the base forms. Plus, they're just regional variants of that. Nobody counts them as something separate, except for what generation they're originally from. And that is, again, the Gala starters, Grookey, Scorbunny, Sobble. They're the most recent starter Pokemon released when Legends Arceus came out, Generation 8. But, let's go back to Bulbapedia for a bit and just give the how Pokemon generations are grouped, just to like get people's minds like, okay, this is not a game based on what console they're from. It's not generation. They're not grouped by what region they're originally based in, because that'll cause a lot of complications. Let's go back to Bulbapedia for a second. So before we continue what the generations are, it's kind of funny that like sometimes like officially like the game dev like Masuda mentions like what generation they're from. So they mentioned Gen 4, they mentioned the 6th generation. So like if even like the heads of Pokemon are aware of what generation number certain game is, then it's probably super official. Also, complete side note, if you watch my videos, hey look, it's Kozaki Yusuke, like the main fan artist. Like, I know he does Pokemon stuff, he knows most of Pokemon Go stuff, but like, you go referring. So if Kozaki Yusuke mentions Scarlet Violet's 9th generation, then it really is a 9th generation. Anyway, but the point is that, sure, you can group each Pokemon game exactly as Bulbapedia does it, right as you see here. So these are like every like main Pokemon thing that has released, be it the main games, the spin-off side games, side stuff, anime, movies, TCG. So yeah, these are like all different stuff. So if you want to know what generation a certain Pokemon game it is, there it is. It's right there. So just gonna scroll down a little bit. Also, you probably haven't noticed this, but have you noticed that like each generation, like it's about 3 to 4 years, give or take, between each one. So like for example, like let's take X and Y for example. It came out 2013, where the next generation came out 3 years later in 2016. So and then going back a little bit more, let's say Ruby and Sapphire came out in 02, 03, where DP came out in 06, 07, like that's 4 years, give or take. So does that mean that like Generation 10 is going to come out in 2026 because we're going to have, like, ZA come out in 2025? I don't know. I think this time it's probably going to be more than a 4-year difference because supposedly Game Freak said that, or Pokemon Company or Game Freak said they're going to take their time, but, like, we don't know about that yet. So, maybe Gen 10 could come out in 2026. Doubt, but it's possible. But anyway, also, you probably noticed. Now before we let's go continue on. Let's go continue on to like some other things that people have like separated Pokemon games, like not just by the fact they're main games or TCG or movies or whatever. And that is what console they're from. Have you noticed that like all these games they're on the Game Boy, and they're Game Boy Color, and people have a tendency to like group Game Boy Color together because the Game Boy Color is completely compatible with the Game Boy and there aren't that many Game Boy Color exclusive games in general to warrant that much of a difference. It's kind of like the 3DS and new 3DS, for example, like Xenoblade, like Xenoblade Chronicles 3D is on the new 3DS, but like nobody's counting new 3DS as its own separate thing. Likewise, all Gen 3s in the Game Boy Advance, all Gen 4s in the DS, all Gen 5s in the DS, 3DS, the exception, Switch. Yeah, I guess in Martin knows like a lot of the research, for like almost 20 years now straight that generations have got like 2 per console, which generally makes a lot of sense because like a lot of like they usually have a lot of similarities between generations, like 4 or 5 some similarities, 6 and 7 similarities, 8 and 9 more similarities than the others, but like you get the idea. So I think it's okay to like split Pokemon games by what console like the main game's originally from. I think that's a fair assessment. You don't want to talk about generations. Fair enough. But also, like, how they're kind of connected they are with each other. Example, Gen 1 and 2 technically can freely connect with each other. I say technically because, there's some Pokemon Gen 2 you can't go to Gen 1, but, like, for all intents and purposes, you could trade between the two freely. Gens 3, 4, and 5, there's more of a one-way transfer, like, between Ruby and Sapphire all the way up, even all the way up to here. But, like, 6 and 7, they have Pokemon Bank, even though you can't put Pokemon from Gen 7 to Gen 6, which, unlike this one's here, you can. But they do have Pokemon Bank in common, these have Pokemon Home in common. You could, like, move between them if, like, it was legal, one and the others. Anyway. That's fair enough. Now, let's go continue with this little video here with some weird exceptions, like not exceptions, like weird quirks with some Pokemon games belong to certain generations or some ways that people have grouped them. Let's start with one of the big ones, LGPE. So, Let's Go is a weird case in that it's a Switch game and Generation 7 that's nothing to do with the Alola games. Is it a Generation 8 game? No, it's not. Because all the code for... Unlike with other Switch games, all the code for the Alola games are in Let's Go. Heck, there's some characters from Alola. There's Mina, who's in Let's Go. So, there you go. Unlike, not what you can say over here either, but like, the point is like, there's some small similarity between Let's Go and then the Alola games, but not much. Plus, like, these two, like, mechanically have nothing to do with each other. But it's still considered a Generation 7 game because the most recent starters at the time of LGP's release were the Alola starters. And then we got all Gen 8, and pretty much going to be Gen 9 as well. This is also included. But none of Gen 8's games connect to each other very well. Because the only thing these three games have in common is that they're all on the Switch and they have Pokemon Home. That's it. Like, you can't, there are a lot of Pokemon that you can't get in BDSP, but we can't get in Legends Arceus that you could Sword and Shield, and vice versa for all the others. So, that doesn't mean Legends Arceus is a Gen 10, is a Gen 9 game. Doesn't mean that that Legends Arceus is like a Gen 8.5 game. Doesn't mean crud. Like, just because these three games have mechanically nothing to do with each other, doesn't necessarily mean that they're separate generations. It just means that they're grouped together by time frame, because it's just a time thing. And plus, it hasn't been like 3 to 4 years. Like, this is like 4 years. Oh, this is like 3 years. Yeah, 4 years. So, yeah, 4 years in each other, because Legends Arceus Scarlet came out in the same year. But like, semantics. Now, I'm gonna conclude this video by a poll that I did here. And that's setting a record straight about generation. So we've already established that the generation is more like time frame or what starters are the most recent at the time of their release. People have been grouping Pokemon games based on region or where they take place in. Because you know how some YouTubers tend to say, with regards to Aura, as the Generation 3 remakes, when it's not the case, they're not remakes Generation 3. Heck, Let's Go can be said a Generation 3 remake because it remakes Kanto. Kanto's in Gen 3. They're Hoenn remakes. There's a big difference. However, because more than 0 people on the poll that I made some time ago answer the poll of whether or not a generation is based on region, that says a lot about the mentality of Redditors. I just wanted to say that. That's funny. But yeah, more than 0 people think that generation and region are interchangeable. That is not the case. That is completely incorrect. Because again, we're talking about Legends Arceus. Legends Arceus has like little to do with the Sinnoh region, just aside from like, oh, they say the Sinnoh region in the past, but like mechanically and everything else, it's nothing alike. Like, really, the only thing they have in common is like, oh, some characters, not just Arceus, like look like Sinnoh characters, and Jubilife Village is going to be Jubilife City in the future. And they name drop. Oh, we're probably going to name this land Sinnoh eventually. But aside from that, they don't do each other, so it's not like Legends Arceus is a Gen 8.5 game. Nobody does that. But yeah, and surprisingly, one person here, literally one person here, actually had the decency to actually, comment that, they're on the 6 people who voted region. Oh, I guess I consider them somewhat region-based personally. Why? Honestly, before I continue, I'm kind of glad that nobody downvoted this, because yeah, this would have been heavily downvoted if this was anywhere else. If this was a more popular thread on r/Pokemon, then they would have downvoted to heck and back. So yeah, I didn't ask this person why they think that, because I didn't actually read these until the poll ended a long time ago. But yeah. But what I like here is the thing is, there's a reason generation and region are different terms. There you go. There's a difference between generation and region. However, people still think that a remake is based on generation when it's really not. It's based on a region. Again, Heart Gold Soul Silver is not a Gen 2 remake. Although technically you could consider that a Gen 2 remake, because all of Gen 2 is in one region. Like, for example, if there's a new Unova game coming out, or a remake of the Unova games, technically could call it a Gen 5 remake because all of Gen 5 is in the same region, I guess. But, like, again, you could technically consider Let's Go a Gen 3 remake because Kanto is in Gen 3. I guess people call a remake to Gen 1 anyway. I personally call it a remake of specifically Yellow because it makes most sense, even though, like, lots of parts of Let's Go are different than Yellow, but it's the same general idea that you can see a remake of just Yellow. Even though I personally have seen, like, people, like, thinking that, Let's Go is just a remake of Red and Blue, and say, no, it's just Yellow, not the others. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just a really short, unscripted video on on what a generation is, and that is personally a grouping of Pokemon games based on which starter Pokemon. No, I'm not talking about you. Is the most recent at the time of their release. But yeah, that's what a generation is. And some other slight small things people would separate Pokemon games for that aren't just generations. That's pretty much it for this video. See you guys later.